But Cameron, about this nuclear issue, right? The opposition says it wants the ban on nuclear power scrapped, and to get over Labor's scare campaign, you know, like, "Way, would you want a nuclear power station in your backyard?" No, I don't want a supermarket either. So what? It's planning to offer incentives to regions that do accept a nuclear power station where an old coal-fired power one was or still is. Incentives like discounted power for local industries. Do you think with incentives like that, the Liberals could win this argument against Labor?
Well, unfortunately, no, because unfortunately, good policy isn't necessarily good politics, Andrew. And I don't think anyone wants to live next to a coal-fired baseload power station or a hospital or a waste facility either. So there's plenty of places you can put nuclear power in Australia. The danger is the fear campaign that Labor will run. And I've been part of it myself. I ran postcards with nuclear power stations on beautiful beaches. So the fear campaign will overcome any attempt, I think, by the Liberal Party to get a sensible outcome on nuclear power. And to the point before from Michael, I mean, France has 56 reactors, America has 93. People live next to and near these facilities all the time, and they produce clean, efficient, carbonless power. And we should actually have them in Australia. We should actually have nuclear power in Australia. But unfortunately, as I said, good policy doesn't equal good politics, and the fear campaign that Labor will run against the Liberals' nuclear plan will be over the top.
Well, shame on you, Cameron Milner, for your booga booga anti-nuclear postcards. But if you
it was against Malcolm Turnbull at the time,
campaign like that, so I'm tempted to forgive you. But if you were in designing a campaign like that, you must also have looked at the yin opposite the yang. What would you do to make it work?
Well, I think the cost of living and the cost of energy for Australians, especially with a massive amount of renewables coming online, that's not doing anything to bring power prices down. In fact, it's skyrocketing power prices. So if you compared apple with apples, so take away all the subsidies, all the taxpayer money, all the gold that we give to the renewable sector, and compare and let the market decide between nuclear power and renewable power without subsidies, then I think Australians would see just how cost efficient nuclear power would be. And indeed, you get to net zero as well. So not only do you decarbonise, but you also have cheap, reliable power, like so many nations across the world do, safely every single day.
You see, Michael, what frustrates me, here's Cameron talking positively about at least letting nuclear power be an option. It's interesting that Graham Richardson, the former, underline former, which makes all the difference, Federal Labor Environment Minister, actually attacked Albanese's flat no to go nuclear. Here he is today.
You're not going to stop nuclear power by sticking your head in the sand and saying, I don't like it.
See, Michael, you can't tell me that there aren't Labor ministers right now who know nuclear makes sense and are just spreading lies and fear campaigns instead. Can Labor really keep saying no?
Well, there certainly is Labor ministers and Labor Party members, because I was involved in debates 20 years ago in the New South Wales right and also at national level about nuclear power around the Three Mines arrangement. So there are people that support nuclear power. The issue I think that Cameron raises is an important issue. And by the way, I've got a power station behind me and a power station in front of me within 5 kilometres, and an old power station site about 5 kilometres away as well. So I'm one of these people that he's got to convince, and I wouldn't be convinced by cheaper power. I think the issue here is a political issue. He needs to focus very clearly on lifting the ban. I think that's all he needs to do, and argue that the ban, once it's lifted, lets the market, as Cameron said and as I've said on many occasions, decide this. It may well be that nuclear power doesn't work out from a financial point of view, but once you remove the subsidies, you will know. And until he does that, his climate doomsday cult is exposed for what it is. It's climate fear-mongering, because they're not interested in the one technology that can actually do something.
No, I think that's absolutely correct. Cameron, just before we go, I'm out of time, but I need to ask you about this. Our deal with the US to buy some of its new Virginia-class nuclear submarines off the production line. Is it falling apart? Because the Biden administration says it's just going to buy one of these Virginia subs next year. It had planned to buy 2, meaning it's going to be behind schedule in building up its own fleet by the time we're supposed to butt in and buy our first submarine in 8 years from now. Are we in trouble?
Look, I think we are, and I think we're in trouble because so many of Albanese's ministers are weak on China. I mean, Richard Marles will be running study tours in Shanghai by the time we have our first nuclear submarine from the US. He doesn't really care about AUKUS. He mouths the words but doesn't deliver. That's what I'm really worried about. We need this deal. Australia needs this deal for our defence against China, but I'm worried that Albanese ministers aren't as convinced as the rest of Australia is.
But if we're trying to go soften the China threat, why would we need the submarines in the first place? That's the problem.